You're listening to the Today's Eden Podcast, episode 49. This is where the struggles are real, the callings are heavy, the kids are sticky. We come together because it takes a village, and this is your tribe. Merry Christmas, you guys. Thank you so much for listening in to the Today's Eden Podcast. I am hoping that since you are listening to this podcast, that maybe that means that you're taking some you time out of the chaos that is Christmas that we're left over with. All the presents everywhere, all the wrapping paper, all the stuff all over the living room floor. Either way, I hope it was a good one and a blessed one. And as we're moving forward, we're all thinking about New Year's and how we want to, most of us anyways, want to do something about our health in some shape or form. And so today we're going to talk about why your health goals for the new year fail, because it's all about the physical. It's all about the six-pack abs. It's all about getting ready for that vacation coming up in the summer. It's all about the bikini bod, and why your reasons for wellness need to be deeper than that. They need to be realer than that, or else it's just going to go out the window like the first week you attempt. So today we're talking about preventing versus fixing, and also we're getting real about health. Like, I think that we need to go there. So this is going to be an awesome episode for you to go into the new year with a better resolution than six-pack abs. And I'm so excited to share Brittia's knowledge with you. And you guys, she's just a sweet, sweet person. And let's get to the episode. Hey, Brittia, I'm super excited to have you on the podcast today to talk about, just changing our health and our wellness, especially with the new year coming up. And we kind of wanted to have a different approach to it today, and I'm really excited about that. But before we get there, I wanted to let you introduce yourself and let everybody listening kind of have an idea of who you are, what you do, and what life kind of looks like for you right now.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be a guest on your podcast today and giving me this opportunity. I love having conversations with other women, and everyone that's listening is perfect for what we're going to talk about today. So I'm super excited. For those of you who don't know me, hello, my name is Brittia Kebechka. I am a self-care coach. I am also a full-time sonographer or ultrasound technician. So I live a very crazy, hectic life. Myself, my husband, and our 2.5-year-old, plus a bun in the oven. We live in South Texas. We live on 20 acres. So raise cattle and have the whole shebang of horses and chickens, and so life is quite hectic down here. But that is kind of why I enjoy focusing so much on self-care. I got a bachelor's degree in health sciences from Baylor University, and I've always just been kind of obsessed with the human body, how it works, and how we can make ourselves better and healthier all the way around. So my two worlds kind of collided when I became a mom, and I realized that my life was about to change, bringing home a baby. Mm-hmm. And if I didn't make some changes, that I was worried I was going to lose myself between working my full-time job and motherhood. And then I went and added an entrepreneurial job to it all. Right? But I didn't want to lose myself in the story of motherhood. I didn't want to just settle with, the new mom body. I wanted to make sure that I was taking time for myself. And I think that's important for everybody. I think it's really easy to get lost in that new role of being a wife and a mom, and then putting ourselves on the back burner is usually the first thing that happens. So
yeah, it's super hard to start when your life is just bombarded with everything, and and we have the habit of serving others before we serve ourselves, and so we just kind of forget about ourselves along the way.
Yes.
So you experienced or learned about self-care super, super early when you were younger, and I kind of wanted you to share your story about that, because I know for me, I think that health was always there. Like, I always knew, and I studied exercise sciences in college, and so I was interested, but it wasn't until I was faced with an experience
that really opened my eyes and made me really serious about knowing that I needed to make changes, and knowing like having a deeper appreciation for why I need to be healthier, you know, live better and take care of my body, besides just that like whole 6-pack abs thing, you know, like I want to have beach body, you know, like,
Yes.
so I wanted you to share that story because I think that's really important, and like a good experience.
Absolutely. So I think a lot of times what happens, and why we put ourselves on the back burner, is because we don't really understand the consequences. And what you're talking about, when I was a child, I believe the first I had seizures when I was little. I believe the first one I had was somewhere around third grade. And so growing up with that as like kind of a medical condition, my mom was always on top of me, because I had two triggers that seemed to cause my seizures. Epilepsy is something that is not really, they don't really know why they always happen. And for me, I had two triggers, and that was lack of sleep and stress. So when I wasn't sleeping well, or, you know, constantly on the go, or when I was stressed out, it seemed like, or wasn't eating breakfast, it seemed like those three things would trigger a seizure. And so I had to always be very conscious of, you know, am I stressed out? Am I overexerting myself? And my mom would always be very on top of me about those things. So through high school, they would kind of come and go. I usually would have what they call an aura. I would know when they're coming. So I could start to kind of feel like, okay, I need to slow it down. I need to rest. But also, as you know, I went into high school, they weren't happening very often, but I was always on the go rodeoing. I didn't tell y'all my past of that, but I high school rodeoed and college rodeoed. And so that's long hours on the road, you know, lots of outdoors in the heat. And so I learned to really listen to my body and know what was happening. Also to be very conscious of just eating and resting, and, you know, things we don't think about, especially as kids and in high school. And so that's kind of how I learned it for me. Also going to the doctor and getting those tests is what kind of sparked my interest in the medical field. I think not knowing why my brain is like spazzing out was super intriguing to me. And so I was always like, oh, I want to be like a neurologist, or, you know, a brain surgeon. And originally when I started college, I was going to be a doctor, but I realized that's not the way my life wants to go.
Yeah.
So I'm still super passionate about health and helping people. And I always say that I'm in the business of preventing versus, you know, like fixing things, because once you have to fix it, it's almost like it's too late, you know, like, but unfortunately, like you're saying, for you, you've had that experience where you're like, okay, you know, I've ended up, you know, in this place that I just can't be anymore. And I think that's what it really takes for some people to trigger that change. Whereas I want to get to you before you have to meet with that bad trigger.
Yeah. And it breaks my heart because we see it all the time. We have friends or family members or coworkers, and you know, they get to a certain point, their health is at a certain point, and then they either feel like they can't go backwards because they've gone too far, or, you know, all these health issues are coming up, and then it's harder to fix like all the damage than if we would just have started before. But something you said on your website, so you own Fringe and Fitness, and I was reading, I think it was your About Me page, and it really struck a chord with me that you said that self-care was not something that came naturally because, you know, you watched your mom and she put everybody and everything before her. And so you kind of, you know, took that on as you grew up too. And so for me, that really struck a chord, like, wow, like they really do, our kids really do model the things that we do, not just in kindness and in, you know, like how we parent and how we are in our marriages, but also like how we take care of ourselves. And so that was really fascinating that you shared that, you know, because for me it was like, wow, like my kids are going to watch how I take care of myself, and that's how they're going to learn how to take care of themselves.
I think it's so much a generational thing. And I say this like on every time I talk about it, but if you look at your family and you look at your grandparents or your grandmas mostly, Your grandma is going to be the last one to sit down at the table. She's going to make sure everybody is fed, well fed.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, she'll be the first one to start doing dishes. Like, she is taking care of everybody else besides herself.
Mm-hmm.
Your mom, that's what she saw, so that's what she does. And this goes for both ways. Like, I have a son, you have a son.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when our sons are watching us, you know, work out and take care of things, and they understand that, look, mom took time for herself. So
Mm-hmm.
when they grow up and have wives and daughters, they're going to understand that it's okay for their wife to take care of themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and to you know, exercise or take time out from being a mom, or you know, whatever these self-care things mean to you. And self-care isn't about just going to the spa and having a spa day or getting a pedicure. Those things are included, but it's really about taking time for yourself to answer what your body and your mind really need in those moments.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's very true. Not to be mistaken with that, like, if you get fulfillment out of serving your whole family and, you know, serving them well, and you are the last one to sit down, like, if that's something that you find fulfillment in, like, by all means, don't just like give that up or whatever, or feel like we're telling you that's not right.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, like, there I feel like there's always a time where, yeah, that will give us fulfillment, but then when we are drained and exhausted, like, it's okay for us to step back on those days.
Yeah, I mean, it's always, we like to take care of people. So we like to, you know, if we're using an event, you know, Christmas is coming up, Thanksgiving just passed. So we like to be able to put on a party and to serve people and to do that for them. But then at the same time, like you're saying, like, it's okay to step back the next day and be like, I'm just going to kick my feet up. Like, the dishes can wait for, you know,
Mm-hmm.
30 minutes or an hour while I just rest. Or, you know, asking for help is also part of self-care. So instead of saying, no, don't do the dishes, I got this, like, it's okay to accept help.
Yeah.
And that's part of self-care as well.
So speaking of husbands, because I know that when I've talked to friends or people that I know who want to get healthy for the new year, or they're trying a new thing or whatever, and they always say, like, I can't get my husband to do it, or my husband's still eating this and I'm eating that. And so how do you, so you're laughing. So I wonder if you like dealt with women so how do you get your husband on board, or how, like, have you personally had to talk to your husband about it? How do you like approach that situation?
Yes, I've personally dealt with it. That's why I'm laughing.
Okay.
When I decided to do this journey, my husband kind of thought it was crazy. And we actually had to work a lot on, like, talking about it, because to him, you know, I was fine how I was, you know. And so when I'm saying I want to work on my body, or, you know, make it better and all of this stuff, he didn't understand. And he thought, you know, from the outside looking in, here I am posting pictures of me working out in my body, and he's like, oh, you're going to draw other men's attention and that sort of thing. So there's that aspect. And there's always the thing where I was also like, okay, I'm going to go work out. Can you watch the baby for 30 minutes? And then I took on guilt that I'm like, I shouldn't be, you know, having him watch the baby while I'm working out. And so there's two sides of this whole, you know, aspect here. So you have to be willing to let go of the guilt of taking time for yourself, and, you know, asking your husband to maybe watch the kids for a few minutes. I also worked out a lot with my son. And if you go through my videos, he is on top of me and working out with me, but that doesn't always work for everybody. So, you know, there are things you can do with your children. There are things you can do without your children. But also, you know, just letting go of that guilt that you're taking time for yourself, because that's a big thing. And talking to your husband about why it's so important to you, if he doesn't understand why you're doing it, maybe, because they don't always see things the way we see it. So just being really honest and saying, you know, I'm not doing this for attention. I'm not doing this for anybody but myself, because I want to feel good in my body. And I just carried this child for 9 months, and my body's not the same. So I'm going to do what I can to, you know, to feel good in my new body, in this body that I was given. And the thing about eating is, my husband, this is kind of a little different maybe, because I don't eat red meat. I eat chicken, turkey, and fish only. And that's something I started when I was 9 years old. But my husband, we raise cattle. So my husband eats lots of
Yeah.
meat. So I'm used to cooking kind of 2 meals. Like I said, that doesn't always work for everybody probably, but um, I would cook my healthy stuff and he just wasn't in the space where he was wanting to eat like that. So I would just cook 2 things and that works for us. But for some people, it's just going to be figuring out how you plan your meals and how you cook, and it might make things a little more difficult. But for me, it's like throwing turkey in one pan and ground meat in another pan, and then you make the same kind of meal.
Yeah.
So it's really not that much harder.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that, also like you have to have a bigger why, I think. So if it's just like, oh, I want to be like bikini ready this summer, then like when you do come upon a situation like this where your husband isn't completely on board or he's not ready to fully commit to the level that you are, and you're having to fix like separate things, then like you're going to be easier to give up.
You're going to want to give
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it throws extra time in there. It throws extra preparation in there. So it is a little bit harder, but that's when, like you're saying, you have to really connect to that why. And you have to be understanding day by day why you're doing this. Because, there's times where, like, I used to be I'll say it on my website, I think too, that I used to be a serial exercise quitter. Like, cause I didn't have like a real good reason to work out, like I would go and do some, time on the treadmill and go home, and I thought I worked out.
Yeah.
But I wanted to see results and I wanted to feel results, and that's what made that difference for me. I never had like a weight goal in mind, but it was a visual goal of what I wanted to see and feel like. I wanted to have energy because I was exhausted, and those sorts of things. So creating those goals and really, really connecting to your why and realizing that it's just the bigger picture, and not beating yourself up about if you have pizza one night, like enjoy that pizza. Tomorrow's a new day and you can start over.
Yeah.
And you don't have to quit just because that day was hard.
Yeah.
Or that week was hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's, most people, they feel that, like immediate shame or failure when they eat the pizza, and then they're like, oh, the whole thing's out the window now, I just messed up, or so as a mom and at like through this health journey, have you found that not only does getting well affect like your outer part of your body, but like internally as well? How has that affected you, like personally and in your ability, like because I feel like our bodies change and our energy levels change when we become moms. And so I'm curious, like how changing our lifestyle can benefit us not only externally, but internally.
Absolutely. So it has a lot to do with mindset for one. So you can look at it from that aspect. I also want to say that I think it has a lot to do with your confidence. When you feel good on the outside, you're also going to feel that on the inside. When you have more energy, you're going to be more willing to get out there and to do new things and to try things. So it kind of goes both ways. I think obviously your outside is what other people see, but it shows on the inside. So if you're ashamed of what is happening on the outside, or you're not feeling confident in what's happening on the outside, that's going to hold you back from other things that you could be doing, or, talking to people, or places that you go, or things that you do. That's one thing. The mindset is going to show up in every aspect of your life. When you've changed your mind to believe that you're worthy of these things, your kids are going to see it, your husband's going to see it, you're going to show up better in your job and, in your everyday life. People are going to notice.
Yeah.
And that's what's really important to me, I think, because I want to be myself at all times. I want to make sure that I'm like, happy and sparkling. Of course, we're not always that way.
Yeah.
I know when I get super stressed, like right now, I have this test coming up. I'm just not fun to be around. So I have to make sure that I'm irritable and just don't want to do things. And so you have to make sure that you have these things in check, and you're still doing self-care, and you're taking the time to kind of to reel back in and to release some of that.
Yeah. And not to mention, like, there's been like a bajillion studies about like how when you exercise, it creates endorphins and, and your
Right.
blood pressure. And so you manage stress better. And then when you come up to these situations, like, an overloaded week when you're taking care of kids and you have a test and you have laundry and XYZ, you just handle it better and you feel good.
Yeah.
And yeah, so how can so we're talking about the new year, and a lot of women who are listening, they want to not just be a fad exerciser, right? They don't just want to make a resolution for the new year because it's the new year. And for the sake of making a resolution, they're going to say like, I'm going to lose 50 pounds or, so how can we make and set like realistic goals that we can actually achieve?
Yeah. So it always drives me crazy. You see all those memes. They're going to start any day now. The memes about the full gym and the empty gym.
Yes.
And
I was one of those posters because I would be at the gym and that would be I'd be like, you're taking my machine.
Yes, it's so true too. But I wrote some statistics down because this always fascinates me as well. But self-improvement, or at least the desire for it, is a very popular thing come January, right?
Mm-hmm.
They say at least 40% of Americans make this New Year's resolution.
Oh my gosh.
Half of that is people making a resolution to lose weight or eat healthier.
Wow.
And the amazing part is that only 8% actually achieve these goals.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. So 8% of 40 actually achieve their goals by the end of the year. And I think this comes from what we just talked about. It's an all or nothing goal. Like if I don't lose those 50 pounds, then, it's just not worth it. There's no wiggle room when you make these New Year's resolutions. So they also say when you put a start date on it, like January 1st is my start date, that makes it sound like there's maybe an end date, and there's not.
Yeah.
So this is about a lifestyle change. You should be making a New Year's resolution that's going to be a long-term thing. So instead of approaching it as like a New Year's resolution, like I'm going to stop eating pasta or I'm going to stop drinking soda, but you haven't made any small changes up until January 1st, and then you just decide like I'm going cold turkey on January 1st.
Right.
That's of course, that's not setting yourself up for good results. Yeah. So seeing it as like a reset, like January 1st, the reason we make these New Year's resolutions is because it's like a new start, right? Mm-hmm. So instead of thinking it as like all or nothing type of goal, think of it as a reset, and that January 1st is a new day. January 2nd is also a new day. So is the 3rd and the 4th. And each day is a new day that you can reevaluate where you're at with your resolution or with your reset, and each day is a new day to reevaluate and make those changes. It's not an all or nothing. It's about making those small changes every day that lead up to your big goals.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, that's a huge thing, is just thinking that tomorrow is a new day, and like if it's a never ending thing, I think, and that was for me in a lot of things too. If you give me a finish line and I don't meet it, then I feel like everything that I did up until then was like for nothing. And then I'm like, it's kind of like this open-ended thing where I'm like, well, what do I do now? Because I just got here and I didn't make it.
Yeah.
And then something I was hearing, I don't know what I was watching the other day, but they had mentioned, like you'd never know where the other person started. So you're comparing your health journey to, this person on Instagram, but they may have already been working out and had, only 10 pounds to lose. And and then you're in a different place and you're going to lose weight differently and your journey is going to look different. So you can't compare yours to somebody else's because you don't know where they started off at.
Absolutely. The same goes through, the business world, but comparison is just, an ugly thing altogether. If you're scrolling Instagram and you see somebody with six-pack abs and you're saying, that's the goal, that's what I want to be like by the end of the year, that may not be realistic for you. You don't know what her home life looks like. You don't, maybe she has a chef that's cooking her, meals. Like, you don't know what it looks like on the other end. And you have to plan what's realistic for you. Like for me, I've never said like I'm gonna quit sugar cold turkey because I like sugar.
Yeah.
It's about molding things and having self-discipline and really considering like where you're at in your life and the things that you can control, because we have so much in our control that we just sometimes don't always use, or we hand that control to other people. When you have control over the things you put in your body every day.
Yeah.
Like, we live in America. We're able to say what we do and what we eat and how we spend our time. So saying no to TV for 15 minutes, 30 minutes at night, that's where you can get your workout in. Waking up a little bit earlier, that's where you can get your workout in. So I won't tell anybody that it'll be easy, because it's not. But you have to figure out, where it's going to fit in and what's realistic for you.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. So what are some tips that women can start doing today to start transforming their health and their life, as they're thinking about not wanting to just set this like balls to the wall like resolution on January 1st?
So start, think about what your big goal is. That's what they always say. Think about the big goal and then reverse engineer it. So if your goal is to, let's not even make it weight related, because that's not even what this is about.
Right.
But let's say your goal is to quit drinking soda by the end of the year. Okay. So start by saying, I don't know how much you drink now. My husband drinks a lot of soda. Start by saying, I'll have 2 a week. If you drink soda every single day, don't just say, I'm going to quit soda cold turkey. Say, I'm going to have, 3 a week. And then in a few weeks, go to 2 a week. And then start adding in some LaCroix, and things that will help that. If you're going to start exercising, if you want to start running, say, I'm going to start once a week. Like, just make it a small, tangible thing that is realistic. Yeah. You need to be realistic with, like I said, how your day looks, how your life looks, and then increase that. Think of your life in quarters, if you will. Do one thing for 3 months and then up it, or think of it in weeks. However you, people receive things and people are motivated by different things. So, that's really why, you have to figure out what works for you individually. But just setting those small things that, I'm going to walk for 20 minutes and then walk for 25 minutes and then 30 minutes and then start jogging a little bit in there. So I think those are the easiest things you can do. Set aside 5 minutes in the morning and to meditate or to journal, and then move that to 10 minutes. Just making it a habit. And that's the biggest thing. Once it becomes a habit, you're going to feel lost if you don't wake up and journal in the morning, or, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I didn't walk today. I feel crazy. Like, my day is just off because I didn't get that in. Or, once you get that into your system, you're going to miss it when you do miss it.
Yeah. And also what I've learned from experience of, like, I don't eat gluten at all because I have autoimmune disease. And so, I just don't. And a lot of people, when they hear that, they're like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. That would be so hard. But it's just like you said, like, after so long, it's a habit now. So when I go to, like, when I first started, yes, it was stressful, and I had to start somewhere. And so it was like, you have Pinterest and you have, so it was like taking things away that I knew, like small things, each day. And then as time went on, I found more ways to replace what I thought I was missing. And then, 2, like, now I don't miss it at all because I haven't had it for so long that when I do have it, I realize how awful it makes me feel, not mentally, but like literally internally.
Physically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't miss it. Like I feel I can realize the difference between what my body felt then, which I thought was normal, to what it feels now, which is amazing. And so for me, it's like I would never go back because this is like the way that I feel is amazing. And so, and it becomes a habit, like you said.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, if you give it enough time and you really put into these things, you know, the same with meat. Like I quit eating it when I was 9. Like I have no clue what a steak tastes like, you know, nor do I have any desire to eat it. Excuse me. But you know, it just becomes part of you. And when you're, you know, you're eating healthy or you're exercising, everyone around you is gonna be like, oh, today's Thursday, it's yoga day, or you know, whatever it is. It just becomes part of your life and your habits.
Yeah. Would you say that finding like a community during a journey, like if you're about to start, you know, a transformation like this, would you think that like finding a community to do it alongside you? Because I feel like there's always going to be those people, whether it's your husband or your relatives, that are like, oh yeah, she's not eating gluten, you know, like to make you feel like, you know, you're this weird person who wants to get healthy when like it should be the opposite way around. Like
1,000% yes. I feel like people are always going to project on you their feelings, right? So maybe your husband or your aunt really want to lose weight, but they haven't been able to do it themselves. And they're going to project that feeling on you, like, oh, she doesn't eat gluten. And they're like, you know, maybe they have no desire to not eat gluten, or they don't understand why you're not eating gluten. But they're going to project their feelings onto you. And that sometimes can make you feel guilty. That sometimes can make you, you know, want to give up because you're not feeling supported. So 1,000% yes. Find a community, find a few of your close friends, you know, however that looks for you. But yes, get some support, find other people that are, you know, on the same journey as you, because that's going to help push you. And for me, like I'm a competitive person, even with my best friends, you know, so finding something that whatever drives you, whatever motivates you, whether that's like, you know, gifts or maybe it's the number on the scale. I don't ever recommend that, but you know, maybe it's watching numbers. Maybe it's a distance that you're, you know, like you and your friend are racing because you want to do a 5K, and she did, you know, half a mile, and you're like, oh, but I did 0.75 miles. So find that community where you can get that support, because I think that is absolutely going to make or break you in this journey.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And as a mom of a toddler, do you have any tips for women who want to start implementing like working out and, you know, being healthy into their lifestyles, but they feel like it would be chaos if they tried?
Yes, it might be chaos for a little bit. That's very true. But there's so many things you can do. And this is also why I say, you know, do what looks right for your life. But like I said, I worked out with my toddler a lot. I did home workouts because I don't really enjoy the gym.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to leave my house and go work out. But, you know, we walked when he was smaller. We walked in the stroller. I did a 5K race pushing a stroller. So I trained with the stroller. You know, you can go to the park and you can do so much at the park. You could walk, you could run, you could play on the jungle gym, you know, do some pull-ups, do some leg raises on the jungle gym part at the park while your kids are playing. There's so much you can do. You just have to figure out what works for you and your kids. You know, if they go to school or daycare, plan your workout for right when you get home from dropping them off, or maybe right before you go pick them up. And you know that that's going to be the same every day.
Yeah.
You know, so those are kind of some of my tips, but include them in it if you can, if it's not too chaotic. I mean, my son's at the point now where I'm like, okay, you're choking me. You're a little heavy. I can't do a push-up with you now. But, you know, and some parents just feel like that is not relaxing at all.
Yeah. No, that makes me think of like my journey with my children, because when they are younger, the gym was the place for me because I could there was like a daycare there, and so like that was my me time. I could drop them off, and I was finally alone, you know, and then I got to work out also, and they got to play with friends and whatever. And then as they've gotten older, now I want them to be a part of my workouts or to see me work out, and also they're you know, not crawling, and you know, I'm trying to keep them from putting things in their mouth at the same time that I'm working out. So now, and because I have a business now, it's like, oh, it makes more sense for me to work out at home. And so now that's what I do. So I think that like you're exactly right in that you're like your journey will change, and you just have to fit it to like what is going on or what you need, and not feel stuck like you have to do what everybody else is doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's just so many options. That's what I think is so great about this, you know. We do have a small gym in my town, but I live in a pretty small town. So the next biggest gym that has a daycare is about 45 minutes away. So that's not realistic for me to go. It's also next to the hospital I work in, but you know, it's just not realistic for me to drop my kid off to go there to work out, that sort of thing. But whatever it does look like for you and where you live, or you know, your childcare situation, when I have this next child, I will be working out with the baby sleeping, you know, or with the baby crawling underneath me, that sort of thing. So it's just going to change, and you have to figure out what works for you.
Yeah, for sure. And when I was looking on your site, I did come across you had a self-care love language quiz, and I was curious how that helps us get clear on helping ourselves, especially like into the new year. And I'm curious, like, can we be using this as a part of our process moving into the new year?
Absolutely. So what I came across when I decided I was going to be a self-care coach instead of just a health coach, or, you know, whatever it was, self-care is kind of a buzzword nowadays. Everybody talks about self-care, but nobody really understands what it means. So that's why I created this self-care love language quiz, because your idea of self-care may not be the same as mine. My idea of self-care is my answer is nature. So we have 4 categories within the quiz, and that means that I enjoy being outside. Like, that's where I can go to just release my stress when I'm outdoors. I, you know, love the fresh air. I love, you know, I grew up in California, so we spend a lot of time outdoors, you know, going to ride my horses or going for walks. Like, that's where I find my self-care. For others, it may be, you know, one answer is quiet thinking. So that may be reading a book, you know, in your living room cuddled up with coffee, reading your book. And that's what really makes you feel alive, or that's what you crave, you know, in your day. So I think if you tell somebody who is a nature person, or somebody who is a creative person, that self-care is about getting manicures and pedicures and reading a book, they're not going to relate to that, and they're not going to find that to be important. So really understanding the things that light you up and the things that fill you up, from a new perspective, I think that's what's really important. And instead of being like, oh, there's so many things I could be doing, what should I focus on? You know, this love language quiz kind of gives you, once you take it, you'll get your answer right away, and then you'll get an email with 10 ways to start, you know, loving yourself intentionally. So I think it takes some of that guesswork out of where to start.
Yeah.
You know, because kind of where we're like, so many options. What the heck do I do first?
Yeah. Especially if you're just starting out. Like, it's, the whole thing can be overwhelming. So that makes it a little bit easier. Just like you said, a good way to start. So I will definitely link that in the show notes, so that way everybody can find that, access that, and use that going into the new year, because that will be super helpful.
Yeah.
So I have a last few questions for you before we get off, and I just wanted to acknowledge you that, like, this conversation was really good, because even for me, somebody who is already sort of on the journey, just the things that I this made me think about, you know, and just edifying the fact that I'm doing this for more than just the abs, and I'm doing this more for just like the outward thing. It was really good. And I feel like the things that you're teaching are the same, and that's where a lot of us need to come from, is not, just for the looks, because I think that can only take us so far, but it's actually for what it'll do for us as women internally. And that is a really awesome work that you're doing. So,
Thank you.
So my last questions for you are, if you could choose one of the most influential books that you've read, what would it be?
I think I would have to say that it was The Compound Effect. I think that book really made me realize that it's not about the big goals, but it's about what you do on a day-to-day basis that really makes the change. It's about, the way we talk to ourselves on a day-to-day basis. And it has so much to do with the mental side of it. If we believe we can do it and you're telling yourself you can do it day to day, you're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't believe that you can do it and you're telling yourself things like, I'm just never going to lose this weight, or it's too hard, or I just can't do it, you're not going to do it. You're never going to succeed by telling yourself those things. So I think The Compound Effect was really something that kind of dug in that idea of making these small changes day to day is what really, makes that big result. And it feels so good when you can get there.
Yeah.
You save 25 cents a day. By the end of the year, you're still going to have a lot of money. It's not going to look like a lot, but that's more than what you might have had elsewise, so.
Yeah, that's true. How do you personally battle like that negative self-talk where you're like you said, if you tell yourself you can, you will, but if you tell yourself you won't, you don't. And so how did you personally channel that and use that?
I think I've always had this I don't know, I guess I've always been that optimistic person. And I've always found it easy to pump myself up and say, all these fancy things. But at the same time, and I've done a lot of work on it myself. So I know, kind of how my mind works. And I go from a high level all the way to the bottom. And when I'm at the bottom, it's hard to get back out of it. When you feel like you failed and when you feel like there's like you're never going to make it happen. And I know how those feelings are, but you're in charge still. So you have the capability to bring yourself back up to that higher level and believe that you can do it. And it's all just about, changing your mind. That's the bottom line. You have the power to change the words that you're saying to yourself. I have affirmation cards and that always helps. I always have this, it's kind of like the devil and angel. Like I literally have arguments with myself. Like you can't do this. And no, you can do it, shut up. Like, who are you? So just having those little reminders around your house. That's why I created the affirmation cards to be that subtle reminder. Like you got this, you're in charge here. You can make the decision. You choose to put that chocolate in your mouth or not. Like these are the things. So I think that's the biggest thing is to just understand that you can change those words yourself.
Yeah, that's a good tip. I feel like when you were saying, that we are in charge, that would be like a good, because for me, I tend to be the opposite. Like I tend to be like negative, more negative. Yeah. And so like, I'm like, oh, that's something I could use is like in those moments, tell myself I'm in charge and then kind of like use that as a way to snap out of it maybe.
Yeah.
If you could tell your younger self one thing, assuming that she would listen, what would it be? I'm
a pretty stubborn person, so that's why I giggle when you say if she would listen. I think it would have been to kind of listen more to my intuition earlier on. When I was in school, like I said earlier, when I was getting my bachelor's degree, I didn't understand what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to make money, right? That's all I was like, oh, I'm building up all this college debt. I need to have a good job and make lots of money. I love what I do now. I love being an ultrasound tech. I get to help people on a day-to-day basis. It has its bad parts. I find lots of cancer and I find bad things.
Yeah.
But what I wish I would have listened to then was to listen to my intuition. And the classes that I enjoyed most were, we actually had a stress management class. That was my favorite class. The exercise physiology class, the kinesiology classes. So I would have told myself to start earlier in what I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm.
I could have had a head start on all of this self-care coaching and training. But I truly 1000% believe that everything happens for a reason, and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be in the moment. So
Yeah,
uh,
for sure. I believe that too.
yeah,
If you could empower women in one way, what would it be?
I think it's just to know that they're worthy of living healthier lives. It doesn't have to mean losing weight. It doesn't have to mean changing their outside perspective, but it means that they're worthy of living a healthier, more fulfilled life. I think the most important thing is to invest in your body and your sense of well-being, because our body is the only thing we have,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what we can offer to other people. And if we don't have our health, and if we don't have our vitality, we cannot help the other people around us. And I think that's what means a lot to us. So I want to just empower women to take control of their health and take control of their well-being as a whole, and know that they're worthy of that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was like the perfect thing moving into the new year. Like we all need to listen to that one part right before. If anybody wants to come and check out your site and what you do, and maybe even some of your services, where can they find you?
They can find me at fringeandfitness.com, or they can find me on Facebook, same thing, Fringe and Fitness. I also have a small group called Beyond the Fringe of Health, and we practice self-care in there and do little challenges here and there. I'm also on Instagram, so you can find me anywhere, but fringeandfitness.com is my website.
And if they're looking for a community, like that would be a great place to start, I guess, is to join your group
Yeah. I have a small group. It's about 250 women, but they're all on this self-care journey, and it's a great place to feel like you can, ask questions or just know that you're not alone on the journey. So
yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad that we got to talk about this and give women a healthier and I feel like a better mindset about their health moving into the new year, and helping them not just to set themselves up for failure, with a New Year's resolution, and really take care of themselves this year. So,
absolutely.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode, and I hope it gave you a new perspective and a new insight on maybe the way that you're looking at your New Year's resolution of getting healthy, and really dig deep into what that means for you and why you really want to do that. Because you are so worthy of taking care of yourself, and you are worth investing in, and you are your health. You have this one body, and we have this one opportunity to live our life the best way that we can. And the way that we can do that for ourselves and our family is to look at how we are treating ourselves. With that said, the next time you're listening into the Today's Eden podcast, it will not only be 2018, but the Today's Eden podcast will be the It Takes a Village podcast. And I'm super excited to have you transition over to that with me. And everything is going to be the same, really. We're just getting a new name because I feel like it better represents what we are and who we are about. And so I wish you a very, very happy new year. And I hope that you really take the opportunity, not only on the 1st, but even now when we have 5 days left before the new year, to start thinking about how you can take care of your body, your mind, your soul, and really invest in yourself, because you are totally worth it.